Hello everyone. Thank you for attending today's Watershed webinar, Agriculture Best Management Used in Pennsylvania to Reduce Soil and Nutrient in Waterways. Our presenter is Ms. Beth Futrick, Agricultural Public Liaison, Ombudsman from the Blair County Conservation District.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Beth Futrick, and I am with the Blair County Conservation District, but I'm an agricultural ombudsman, which is an unusual role. There's only two of us in the state of Pennsylvania, and primarily our duties are to intervene or interact between municipalities or neighbors or any other conflict that comes up between local government, community, and farming. If you live anywhere near farmland, you probably understand some of that, particularly if there are people who move out of the city into the country thinking that they're going to have this beautiful, serene living space. And if they're next to a big farm, sometimes that's not the case. But there are laws in place that protect agriculture so that we can keep growing food. But there's also, on the flip side of that, regulations that do keep an eye on what farms are doing to make sure that there's no agricultural pollution making its way to the streams and our waterways. And that is the main one that we work with here at the Conservation District is the Pennsylvania Clean Stream Law. So that is a state law. It's regulated by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. And what DEP regs say for farms is that they must have an erosion and sedimentation control plan, or what we call E&S plan, E&S plan. And it is to regulate farming activities that disturb more than 5,000 square feet or more of soil. So that includes plowing, tilling, even no-till, which we'll talk about that, and any animal heavy use areas or any barnyard areas. So the Clean Stream Law also mandates that farmers need to manage the manure that's being produced on their farm. So they need to have a written manure management plan. And that plan needs to show how much manure is being produced on the farm and where those nutrients, all that nutrients that's in that manure, where it's going. Because like we're controlling the sedimentation on the farm, because sediment or any earth or dirt that moves off the farm and makes its way to the stream is a pollutant. And any manure that makes its way to a stream is a pollutant because of the nutrients. Over-nutrification is a big problem with stream health. So these plans are in place for the farmer to administer, and he shows how much manure is being produced on the farm and where those nutrients are going for crop uptake. So it's a good thing for farmers to have on the farm if they're growing crops, but if it escapes and gets off the farm, then it becomes a pollution problem. Oh, so there's our first question already. Michael, can you pop up their question? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yes. Can you see it, everybody, hopefully? And I'm going to end the poll and share the results, and you can interpret them then. Oh,
very good. Okay, so is the correct answer is C. So farmer needs to have a manure management plan and erosion and sediment control plan. And again, manure and sediment or those nutrients or the soil getting into a waterway is a pollution problem in the state of Pennsylvania. And I live and work out of Blair County, and all Blair County is in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. So half the counties in the state of Pennsylvania are part of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And so there's extra scrutiny on that. Farmers that live in those areas need to really pay attention to their making sure that they have the correct plans in place and that they're administering them. And so talking about this, I realized that, I'm not talking to farmers. So we've made these videos to help farmers stay in compliance. And we just felt that I thought this would be a lot more entertaining for you to watch these videos instead of listening to me talk about it. So this is the first video about telling farmers why they need erosion and sediment control plan on their farm. All right, so we're back on. You can see everything okay?
Yes, looks good.
All right, fantastic. So yeah, I thought the video would be much better at showing examples of different farm practices that are used to help keep soil in place. And as you could hear, a lot of the farmers, well, they all had said about keeping that soil in place. That is a precious resource to them. They want that soil to be healthy, to grow thick crops, to grow thick pasture, to help keep them in business. So they are very motivated. Yeah, they're concerned about keeping clean water clean. They certainly, every farmer that I ever worked with is, does not want to cause a pollution problem. So that motivates them, but just, affecting their bottom line also motivates them. So like we had talked about in the video, no tilling, leaving that crop residue behind, contour strips, putting in grass waterways, cover crops, and rotational grazing. That all keeps that soil tightly covered with a lot of organic matter. And so when there's a rain event, it's not rushing across the field and picking up a lot of loose soil. And this is just, again, examples, pictures that show no-till. That's a no-till drill running across there. And what that does is so the stubble that you see in this picture is the corn stubble that was left from last year's crop. So the farmer lets that just stay there. It starts to decompose, but it lays down and it provides a mat. And then they run that drill across that has a beveled edge that slices through the soil, and then right behind that slice, the seed drops down into the little slit. So very, very little soil is disturbed with no-till. And there you can see the crop growing up and the old corn residue that's covering that soil and really, really keeping a nice covered mat on that field. We talked about cover crops. That's the other thing that farmers do a lot. So after they come through and harvest whatever they've grown, whether it's corn or soybeans or hay or straw, oats, wheat, they'll drill in a cover crop. And that could be alfalfa, could be some type of annual grass or perennial grass. And again, the intent is to have something growing there after the crop has been harvested. So the roots are intact there. It's holding the soil. And then when that cover crop, sometimes they'll turn cattle into this and let them graze it. Sometimes they'll just spray it and let it decompose. And again, adding a lot of nutrients back to the soil, or green manure, we call it, back into the soil. One of the farmers in the video talked about needing to do contouring, contour strips and grass waterway. And you may have seen his farm was in Clearfield, so he had a lot more steeper slopes to deal with than most farmers in Pennsylvania. But that contour strip means that there's a row of corn and a row of hay. And the goal there is, we know that the corn, there's a lot more space between each plant. So water can maybe start working its way down through a cornfield. It might start chiseling out and creating an erosion problem. but then it'll hit that really thick crop of hay, and that helps spread that stormwater out and slow it down. And then on really steep situations, you can see right down the middle is that grass waterway. So that's where it's just really so steep that the farmer just doesn't till it, or they don't do no till or anything in that area. It's grass. Now they can mow it and make hay, bale it up to feed us hay. But the intent there is, we know that's a really low spot in the field. We know that water's going to accumulate there. A lot of times we've already seen erosion there, and then they come and put this nice swell in so that the water spreads out and disperses through that waterway, eliminating or reducing significantly any erosion. And the other thing that we help farmers do, sometimes you can see this field is a little steep, not too steep, but maybe steep enough that we don't want them to plant crops there. This may not be a good place to put corn. Maybe the soils aren't quite as nice, or as rich or deep, and the erosion issue might be a lot higher if they even get in there to do no-till. So we've been helping farmers do this rotational grazing, and that has been really significant as far as building up soil health, because there are farms now in the state that have been doing rotational grazing for over 20 years, meaning that grass has not been, they haven't replanted, they haven't taken equipment across there unless they're just going to mow it. So those root systems in that pasture are really deep. There's a lot of organic matter that builds up on these pastures. And now they're doing a lot of research on how rotational grazing systems are providing a carbon sink. So they're actually sequestering carbon, pulling carbon out of the atmosphere. And so now sorry, I have to keep my window open because I don't have air conditioning. It's noisy outside. So not only are these systems cleaning the water, any stormwater that's hitting this is getting filtered through the grass, but now they're pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, which is amazing. So this is just a picture, aerial shot of a farm that we've worked on. You can see how you can pretty much see the outline of their crops, where they are, growing corn and soybean and alfalfa. And we take it and put fence. So all that light blue is fence. We run fence all around. We divide up that cropland into what we call paddocks. And the farmer then can move those animals from paddock to paddock to paddock. He did keep this, you can see cropland right there in the middle. There was some areas where he wanted to keep for hay, to bring cut hay in for the winter, but everything else he turned into rotational grazing. And the blue W's, if you can see there, are the watering systems where we run pipeline out. The cows don't even have to come back to the barn to drink. There's water there. And they get moved every few days, where they go across and mow that grass and really make it rich, and animal health improves, soil health improves. We just really love this type of practice on farms. And we're at the second question.
So I see answers rolling in here. And share the results.
Perfect. Okay, I'm doing a better job teaching here. I found my stride. Right? So the answer is C. Perfect. So in the video, it talked about animal heavy use areas, that needs to be included in a farmer's erosion and sediment control plan. Animal heavy use areas also are called exercise lots, feed lots, watering areas. Basically, it's the earthen barnyard. And probably about a month ago. If you are driving through farmland where there's a lot of animals, you may have seen this. We call them brown lots sometimes, and they're really visible in the wintertime or in early spring when the frost is coming out of the ground. They're perfectly legal. I mean, we know that animals need to have a barnyard, but these are not pasture areas. But now we are saying to farmers, this is a pollution source, so you need to count this in your plan. You need to show how you are keeping the sediment running off of that lot and making its way into the waterway. And this is a good example. This is a before picture. You can clearly see the animals have really beaten this area up. And of course, it's winter time. But we had them move those animals completely from that area and allow it to green up. If he wasn't so close to the stream, you can see, I don't know, down in the back of that picture, you can see those little white stakes. That's actually trees that we planted there. So that's a riparian area. And we're going to talk about riparian buffer, but that's a stream. So that heavy use area is really close to the stream. If he wasn't so close to the stream, and if you remember, JB had talked about the Somerset farmer, when he bought his farm, the heavy use area was right along the stream, and he moved it. He moved it up slope and gave himself about 500 feet of grass area between his heavy use area and the stream. So that grass area filtered out and protected any sediment from making its way to the stream. But when it's so close like this, we just have to move the animals or find a better place for a heavy use area. And some of the farmers in the video talked about keeping clean water clean. Ben Logan had talked about putting that waterway behind his feeding facility. So the cows were in that big, long concrete roofed housing area where he fed them all winter long. But the slope up from the hill upslope from that facility, there was a lot of stormwater coming off of that area. And so they put that, it's called a parabolic slope. You know, it's like a U-shaped waterway that catches that water and whisks it away from any place where there are animals. The other thing, and it's really simple, is we put roof gutters up. You just don't think about how much water is coming off of those big barns. I'm sure you notice how much water may be coming off of your house. And these facilities are a lot larger than a house. So we capture all that clean roof water and again, whisk it away, get it away from where the animals are. And again, we just need to move and relocate animals. You know, you can see the stream right there below the pigs. So this is a before picture, and this is an after picture. And we did not replant it. A lot of times we'll go in and replant what we call the riparian buffer area, but this over a year just naturally healed itself. A lot of native stuff moved in and just revegetated that mountain stream. So the pigs got moved to a feed lot on a concrete area, and that manure was then contained and scooped up and put on cropland. And so there's a really good picture. So this was a rotational grazing system that we installed. The cattle had full access to the stream, which wasn't good because all that hoof pressure really breaks down the stream bank. So we fenced the cows out of the stream. They do have an access area where they can get down in and cross the stream in a stabilized area, and they can stop and get a drink. But again, water lines were run out into all these pastures so that they could drink away from the stream, keeping them from breaking down the bank, causing sediment pollution, and just going to the bathroom in the stream and causing that nutrient pollution. Oh, okay, that slide, I was changing my mind on what I wanted to show you because I recognized that probably none of you are farmers, and I wanted to give you something that you might find a little more interesting to take back to your classroom. So, we do spend a lot of time planting riparian buffers. And if you don't know what that is, a riparian area is that strip that runs alongside of streams. And it's a very sensitive area. If it's not protected with, trees, shrubs, or deep rooted grasses, it will erode. We get calls from people who are streamside landowners. They're not farmers, but they mow their lawn right up to the edge of the stream. And you have that short little grass growing along the stream. Well, there's a short little root underneath that soil. So you have a big rain event, it's washing away the bank, and people are losing their yards. But we really like to see native forbs and flowers and trees growing along that bank. But what we've been doing now, and so I work at the Blair County Conservation District, and we have a park here in Hollidaysburg called Nature Works Park. So definitely we have a Facebook page, we have a web page. Google us and find us, because I think you will find this a really interesting space. It's an environmental educational park, and we have a multifunctional riparian buffer planted there. And what that is what it sounds like. It's a riparian buffer, but with many different functions. And our goal was to show farmers and other streamside landowners different treatments that you can do in that riparian buffer. So the first 15 feet from top of bank on a stream bank, we don't want anything happening there. We want it just to be planted in trees and shrubs, and then plant it and leave it, because we want those roots to go nice and deep and hold that bank in place. But after you get past that 15-foot area, you can plant different things. We have, for example, at the park, we have what we call an edible buffer. So we have native trees planted right up on that bank for the first 15 feet. And then beyond that, we've planted cherries, apricots, peaches, we've planted raspberries, just different edible plants. We keep it mowed right now, even though we try to tell people not to mow it. We don't mow it very often, but we're in the process now of trying to plant more ground cover in between the fruit trees and low growing shrubs, so that we can start, we want to get those fruit trees and shrubs the best start that they can. But then our goal is to not have to manage it at all. And these multifunctional buffers you can get in, and, of course, you can pick, harvest, and you can even mechanically harvest in these areas, because we feel that the ground is not disturbed as much with these different functional buffers. We also have a cut flower buffer with hydrangeas and peonies and different things like that. Growing along the stream side. We have a wildlife buffer where we're encouraging birds and other wildlife to move in, and a pollinator buffer. So again, Nature Works Park, Google it. You can go there to visit. There's a lot of passive learning opportunities there. We have lots of signage out. And with this multifunctional riparian buffer, we put up small signage with QR codes on, so you can, do the QR code and a video comes up and it talks about what part of the buffer you're standing in. And that was sort of birthed because we had so much access to people before COVID, and then COVID happened and we didn't have opportunity to talk to our park visitors. Park visitors went up, of course, during COVID. So now there's a lot of signage, and we hold workshops. We have a cut flower workshop coming up next month. We have a moon garden workshop coming up next month. So if you don't know what a moon garden is, you'll definitely have to check us out. But follow us on Facebook, and I think you'll find lots of interesting things to take back to your classroom. But back to the clean stream law. So we talked about sediment being a problem. Sediment getting into the stream is a pollutant in Pennsylvania, but definitely nutrients getting into the stream is a pollution problem too. So the Pennsylvania Clean Stream Law says that all farms must have a written manure management plan. And that plan needs to show, again, like I said, how much manure is being produced on that farm, and what the nutrients are in that manure and where those nutrients are going. So farmers do spread that manure on their cropland because it's good for the crops, but it's a very precise, calculated document. And this is just a picture. Again, if you're close to Blair County, you drive out around Martinsburg, that's a big ag community out there. You see a lot of these manure storages out there. And we can show the video now, and it will explain nutrient management, manure management much better.
This brings us to our second updated regulation, Chapter 91.
Okay, well, we've talked enough about manure management, and like the video said, it's manure is collected and used to provide nutrient for crops, and that's a very well calculated plan. And there's our third question.
All right, I see the answers rolling in here.
So the answer is manure management helps farmers reduce the risk of over applying nutrients. Oh, and that's it. So I'm happy to chat and to take any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you for presenting today. As people think of questions, when it comes to our program, I know it was specifically mentioned that the Chesapeake Bay is a particularly important area when it comes to managing agriculture and the nutrients that can get down in there. Can you speak any to like the importance to that, or any of the things that you see that's of note particular to the Chesapeake Bay?
Yeah, absolutely. So the bay still needs our help. There's still too much pollution making its way down to that area. When we talk to farmers way up here in Blair County, I mean, we're at the top of the watershed. We say, well, we don't want any of our streams or rivers polluted. But there is extra pressure. The environmental EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, the national EPA, has been putting a lot of pressure on our state to get things cleaned up. Right now, we're working on what's called a watershed implementation plan. So DEP has gone through each county and worked with each county conservation district to develop a county-wide plan. And what we did is here in Blair County is we met with stakeholders, we met with farmers, we talked about locations that needed the most help, what kind of best management practices were needed to help reduce sediment and nutrients. And we're right in the middle now of implementing that plan. Again, rotational grazing, we've been spending a lot of time helping farmers take some marginal cropland out of production, out of crop production, and put it into grazing production. Doing some stream bank restoration work. We just got a grant to build more manure storages. That's an expensive practice, but it holds that manure in a tank for 4 to 6 months, and then the farmers can get that applied at the right time for where the crop can pick it up. So a lot of activity right now. And we have our goal to reduce nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment has been set for 2025. So we're working really hard over the next couple of years to try to reach that goal, to get that reduction in pollution.
Great. And if teachers have students that wanted to see some agriculture operations, let's say, are there places for that? Or if they can't get out of the classroom, are there any programs you're aware of to kind of connect classrooms to agriculture?
I know here in Blair County, we worked with the Chamber of Commerce, and they organize every school in Blair County can visit a dairy farm in Martinsburg. I'm not sure. I think the chamber worked with partners to raise the money for buses and programming. And I can't remember, I think it's 7th grade is the age group that goes out, or maybe it's 4th grade. But so the farmer meets with them, they talk about all the practices that he does, they talk about animal health, his vet comes, so students get a chance to talk to veterinarians, students get to talk to like the different agencies he works with to help him with crops and feeding program for his animals. So it's a really good opportunity to introduce children to everything that goes into agriculture. It's not just the farmer who does the agriculture. It's not just the farmer who grows the food, the milk and other food, but it's a whole host of agencies and organizations that help keep that farm in business. And they do a fantastic job. They have all these stations set up so that students can visit with all those different entities for future employment. You know, we need more people to work in agriculture, that's for sure.
Awesome. Great. And I see in the comments it says 7th grade there. So
7th grade, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I would say if these teachers aren't in Blair County, I mean, email me, I'll get you connected with the chamber, and my boss, Donna Fisher, was really involved in getting that organized. So if they're interested in doing something similar in their county, we really feel like that was successful and want to help other counties out.
Wonderful. So I know we're getting close on time here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to, come off mute or put them in the chat. I'm going to put in the chat here the feedback forms, and also I've got a link to the video that we watched today if anybody wants to use that for future reference, as well as links to NatureWorks Park.
Perfect.
So, yeah, Beth, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you very much. I hope you got something meaningful from it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for participating and for presenting.